Greetings, everyone. I am Sampath Veeraraghavan, the Global President for IEEE-HKN, also called as IEEE-HKN. Once again, I welcome you all to the day 2 of HKN TechX conference. You are joining a very important panel discussion where we are going to talk about key IEEE programs on emerging technologies. As you know, this year the IEEE-HKN TechX program is a virtual event where our theme is focusing on emerging technology, and this program provides a very unique opportunity to train students who wants to enter the industry workforce, and also it advises the young professional on how to advance in their careers, specifically relevant to the emerging technologies. One great thing about this year's offering is that there's a huge portfolio of global programs which is being offered as part of the TechX conference. This includes keynote remarks from global leaders, exciting learning sessions, networking events, and a recruiting fair. So we have more than 260 registrations from 26 countries, and we are very grateful to 17 plus partners, 11 sponsors, and 6 society content partners. And we are having about 10 sessions and 25 speakers. So once again, I take this opportunity to welcome you all. So with that brief note, I would like to welcome our first speaker, from GRSS President, Dr. Mariko Bergin, who has agreed gracefully to join us today and talk about how GRSS, IEEE GRSS Society is contributing in advancing emerging technologies for the larger benefit of humanity. She is a globally renowned technologist. She has done amazing work. So you will hear from her. What are the portfolio of programs, how HKN members could participate in the GRS activities, and also some exciting topics related to emerging technologies. Without further ado, I welcome Dr. Mariko Bergin to go ahead and provide her presentation today. Welcome to you.
Thank you so much for this kind introduction. I hope you can hear me. I'm very happy to be here. Well, hello from Los Angeles. For me here, it's 10 o'clock in the morning. I look forward to spend about the next 15 minutes presenting to you, and then afterwards be open to Q&A. As said, my name is Mariko Bergin. I'm the IEEE GRSS president. I'm very happy to represent our society here to you. And I wanted to, in the next few slides, talk a little bit about IEEE GRSS, what it is, give a little bit of the excitement of that surrounds our society, and then also how you can get involved and talk about emerging technologies. So first, we should start with what is remote sensing. Our society is called Geoscience and Remote Sensing. And so one way of thinking about this is we are really a group of people who design and utilize instruments on satellites, airplanes, and on the ground to gather information about the Earth's atmosphere, oceans, and land. So you can see the scope is very big. So we have an international network to share data, to develop a more complete picture of our Earth. And also, remote sensing really affects you in ways that you may not be always aware of or realize, because remote sensing is used in daily life to inform weather forecasts, make drought predictions, help in disaster areas, manage crop yields or predict crop yields, and look at land use and many more things. And so remote sensing is really allowing us to get this synoptic view of the Earth. And that's, I think, really the exciting part of remote sensing, and also our society, because we have this broad group of people, and also, career trajectories and technologies that we encompass, going from hardware to data analysis, going to satellite images, and I will talk a little bit more about this. Being an engineer, I do have to put at least one definition in here. So here, this is basically what remote sensing is in a little bit more detailed terms. But it's all about this process of detecting and monitoring physical characteristics of an area. Can be the Earth, can be also other planets, by the way. Our society focuses most on Earth because we are geoscience and remote sensing. But by the way, you can also remotely sense different planets, or you can remotely sense cars, autonomous cars. So there's an interesting kind of overlap with other areas as well. And we'll talk about, like, it's about measuring reflected and emitted radiation at a distance. So you're not close up to things, so you're not in situ measuring, but you're remotely measuring. So it's over distance, and that's really one of the ways of how you can think about remote sensing. And then, of course, I mentioned hardware. There's special cameras, not just visual, different frequencies. So you have remotely sensed images, and when you have images, it comes, that's where the data processing, data analysis, the machine learning, the data fusion comes in, which is a whole aspect of our field. The next few slides, I just want to show you a few of the amazing things that kind of are encompassed within GRSS. I love to talk about this stuff, so if you have questions or anything, you can always reach out to me later on. But look at this, for example. Space-based remote sensing can help you view and look inside hurricanes. So on the left-hand side, you see a visual image. You see the hurricane, right? This is what you usually see on TV and so on. But on the right-hand side, you actually see a microwave 3D view. So you can see that microwave actually sees through the cloud. So it's not just, there's no cloud penetration. You can see inside, you can see the water particles. And because of that, you can see the storm intensity, what particles are inside. And this is very fascinating to scientists who then can do modeling with that. They can see where the storm center exactly is, how it moves, and make all these predictions. So I think remote sensing is one of the things, like, I'd like to say about it is the emphasis of you can see more. Sometimes, look at different frequencies, utilize them in a specific way, and you can see more things. Here's another way of looking at a hurricane with a microwave sensor. This is a passive sensor, and you can see here, you can see rain bands. So not everything that is a cloud actually rains. I'm not a scientist specializing in this particular thing, but there are whole research fields on this. But it's fascinating that also here you can see remote sensing data can see through the clouds and into zooming into the details. Another thing here is ground-based radars. I love looking at radar, ground-based radar data. I'm actually a radar scientist. That's my formal education. And if you look at weather prediction, you can always see ground-based weather radar data, where you can see the frequency and amplitude, and it really shows you the characteristics of the storm. You see when the rain bands are coming. And so this is also another way of how remote sensing is impacting your life, because you would like to know when it starts to rain at your location, not like so in sort of in general terms. Another aspect of remote sensing is climate studies, atmospheric science. This is a very kind of high-level image here, but for example, remote sensing can help you measure human-made emissions from the Earth's surface. And there's a whole science behind the climate studies and the air pollution, particulate matter in the air. And this is something that is very important for the future of our Earth, how to also inform policies going forward. And so within GRSS, we also cover a lot of science and how to say recent advancements in this field. Now, here is another thing to mention. We talked a little bit about storms and so on. Here is an example of how remote sensing can contribute to the ocean knowledge that we have. Here is an example of radar altimetry to understand changes in sea height. So you can see here different colors. It's a little bit hard to understand, but basically radar altimeters can tell you the surface height, how you can also measure surface roughness. And so basically you can see how the wave crests are in the ocean. There's a lot of amazing science that is going on here when it comes to oceans, because if you look at Earth as a whole, a lot of it is water. And so we need to understand how it behaves, how it absorbs temperature and everything. So there's a whole field within GRSS, or the remote sensing community, that focuses on the ocean and science and technology related to it. Here, one more point about clouds and waters. Clouds and water amount. So this here is in the atmosphere. You see how much global maps of precipitable water and cloud liquid water. This is all because there is this amazing water cycle that happens on the Earth. It starts in the ocean, it goes into the atmosphere, it rains snow, liquid water, and then the rivers catch the water. This is all part of drinkable water. Also, some of it is salt water. So this is a huge cycle that is going on in our day-to-day life that scientists have been studying for a long time. And remote sensing can help understand this better. And this is really critical because sort of water availability is starting to shift. As you know, the temperatures on Earth, climates are changing slightly, and we need to figure out where's the water available, where are droughts happening, why are they happening? And so there's a lot of science, really important science going on in this field. And then here, looks like my slide didn't, the image didn't make it here, but I just want to say that this is one thing that I find very interesting. I'm really sorry that the image didn't make it here. Sea ice. So sea ice is another thing that remote sensing is very important for. So sea ice is basically not the ice that is, like locked up in our poles, but ice that has split off, that is kind of floating in the water. And it's usually very hard to predict where it is, how much there is, and how much ice actually is still in it. And the sea ice, remote sensing has neat ways of detecting it and measuring it. And this is really important because we are interested in understanding melt rates, right? That's another thing when you talk about climate change, it's related to sea ice and the poles melting, and we want to know what's the rate and what are the predictions of it. And as said, sorry, don't have the image, but it's a fascinating view when you see where's the sea ice located, how it's changing. And that's another thing that is very important also for remote sensing. You don't just take one image and you have everything you need. It's a tracking, it's a monitoring, it continues on. And that's where it gets exciting because you have streams of data that you can analyze. And as mentioned, these are sort of the prominent specialties in remote sensing, sort of from a different view. You can see here like microwaves, antennas. We have detectors, optics, focal plane arrays, microelectronics. We have aerospace engineering. It's also touched upon, like space vehicles, sensors, and missions. Then I mentioned data analysis, the different types of data, how to put the data together, how to combine it, fuse it, the topic of big data, classification, machine learning, AI comes in there as well. And then, of course, earth science, all of what I mentioned about cryosphere, atmosphere, oceans, and land, and then, of course, weather and climate modeling. So hopefully this brief introduction into remote sensing gives you sort of an appreciation of what it is. And now I'm going to switch into GRSS. But if you have interest in talking more about this, always feel free to reach out to me and talk more. But quickly, I wanted to talk about GRSS. So it is a technical society of IEEE. We are fostering engagement of all our members, which consist of our scientists, researchers, and practitioners. So you see, we are a pretty diverse type of group. We're a global community. And so our task is really to encompass all these interests. And so IEEE GRSS, what we do is we administer publications, we organize conferences, we have professional activities, we have education, continuing education, and we also organize technical activities. We do many things, and I was really struggling trying to summarize this to what should I show you today. But in essence, it is really what's most important is we are a global community. So we have a lot of chapters, we have student chapters and ambassadors all throughout the world. I think these numbers are actually already outdated because they're from beginning of April. But that's one thing that we're really excited about because different aspects are interesting to different areas in the world. So we're trying to really accommodate that through our chapters. So these are local chapters where people are organizing events and we try to support those as well. So we call it a community of communities because we are very broad. We have industrial community. When we talk more about emerging technologies in the Q&A, it's going to be very interesting. The whole new space area is very important right now, and this is really changing the field of remote sensing. And here we're organizing a lot of workshops, seminars. We want to make sure we're inclusive of the industry community, and also give our members an opportunity to directly connect with them, maybe find jobs in these companies, and really benefit from what they're doing in industry on their side on cutting edge. Then student community, we're very focused on our students. We want to offer continuing education. We have GRSS schools, so sort of summer schools. We have a resource center. We have student grant challenges. I could talk about this for a long time. The latest one that we have right now is student teams are looking on how to detect marine debris in the oceans. You know, like the trash that is accumulating in the ocean due to like the ocean currents, and finding ways of how we can find them, detect them, and hopefully at some point then mitigate them. This is a personal interest of mine as well. So if you have thoughts about this, I'd be happy to talk about it. But student grant challenges is really are really like interesting topics. And a previous student grant challenge just is about to launch their own satellite, because we supported them to build a little CubeSat satellite. Then of course our young professional community. We have social media, we have YP mixers, we have career events. We also do mentoring. We have women mentoring women. We also have everybody mentors everybody. So this is really so important, you know, as you are in your journey on your career trajectory, it's important that you have mentors, that you are supported. And sometimes it's good to also get advice and discuss on, you know, like what's your career choice. And we want to be very supportive in that. And then of course, global research community. As you said, we have publications, conferences, and awards, and we really want to enable networking and leadership within the community. Here's just a quick image of our journals that GRSS provides. We have 4 publications, and we have 1 that we co-sponsor with other IEEE societies. Especially the magazine is very approachable. If you're interested in sort of a high-level view, highly recommended. We also have an e-newsletter that is free that you can sign up with. I could drop the link in the chat afterwards. Highly recommended if you're interested in the remote sensing field. Then I wanted to give a quick shout out to our flagship conference. This year is going to be in Pasadena, California. It happens in July. If for people who are involved in the GRSS, basically in the remote sensing community, this is one of the stops every year. We're very excited because it's going to be in person, and we hope it's going to be a fantastic event. Then what can GRSS do for your technical and local community? As said, I think I only have a few more minutes left, so I have to speed up a bit. But basically, I mentioned this before, we have continuing education for students and young professionals. If you're interested or in the field of remote sensing and geoscience and remote sensing, we really help with GRSS schools, which are sort of like a week-long tutorials or several-day tutorials. But then also the conference journals and the magazines and webinars are a way to stay in touch of what's cutting edge in our community. Then I think problem-solving abilities and, you know, algorithms and these kind of things. We organize, for example, a data fusion contest, so that where you can basically compete with your chops of fusing data, and you can win prizes. And I think it's a fantastic challenge that is going on. But then also we have events at conferences, we have industry speakers. So it's really about keeping you engaged and you know, like sometimes, do you want to go in which direction do you want to go, and kind of like helping you navigate this community. Then of course, we also want to connect companies to young and motivated people. We have events especially for that at our conferences, but also online. And then what's really important to me is connecting different communities of practitioners and researchers all across the world, and really make sure that you have access to these hot topics of interest. I mentioned the e-newsletter, but also the magazine, our website, and connecting you to the people in the field who are really like working on the cutting edge science. And this is my last slide. This is really also an invitation. I'd like to extend an invitation to you to join our community. if you're interested in geoscience and remote sensing. We would like to help you to share and promote your ideas, systems, data sets, what you do, meet with other communities and like learn from their perspectives. We're really proud that we're a global society. We want to help build collaborations. These can be research collaborations, but it can be also looking for internships or exchanges or things like that, where we're also thinking about ways to help with that. We want to make sure that we all learn from each other. And, sometimes it's good to just work with like-minded researchers and developers so that, because I think in the end, we're all here to make a difference in the world through remote sensing. And that's what we really feel strongly about. So thank you so much. And yeah, if I'm going to stop here and then see if when we go to Q&A. I think you're muted.
Thank you, Dr. Mariko, for your wonderful, talk. I mean, you touched upon fabulous areas. For instance, you touched upon how students and professionals could leverage GRSS. Not only that, you showed us practical application of some of these GRS technologies. Basically, this is very, very interesting. We have a lot of exciting questions that we wanted to, check with you in the Q&A session. But I would like to again thank you for providing such a wonderful presentation, touching upon the breadth and width of GRSS and the relevant technology today. So without overdue, we'll have the quick presentation from Dr. Ashutosh, the next speaker, and then we'll go on to a joint Q&A between them. So I take great pleasure in inviting Dr. Ashutosh Dara. People who are very active in IEEE know him. He does not need any introduction. Such a eminent leader, engineering leader who comes with a wide range of experience in industry and academia. And not only that, Dr. Ashutosh, one thing I personally know him as for is always trying to put his skills for the larger good. One of his more prominent program, which he launched last year, is the Connecting the Unconnected, which again, if you have not heard about it, I will encourage you to go and read about it. But here today, you will hear from Dr. Ashutosh, specifically about the future networks, the technical council, what he's leading, what are some of the areas, how you could participate and engage in. We are going to have a very exciting Q&A with him, but we have a wonderful presentation from him. Without any further delay, I welcome Dr. Ashutosh to go ahead and deliver his presentation today.
Thank you, Sampath. Let me just go back. I really appreciate the kind invitation and I look forward to a great panel discussion. So I'll try to keep my presentation within 15 minutes. So again, I'm based here in Laurel, Maryland. I work for Johns Hopkins University, but IEEE, I'm presenting this as the chair for Future Networks Technical Community. So I will, I know this is about future networks. So I'll just give a little bit of introduction, actually. Why do we need a future networks to begin with, right? So just to, if you look at the history and the communication revolution over the last 100 years or so, right? Maybe more. Things have evolved. We are still evolving, starting from your communication with the horse and pigeons, optical telegraph, electric telegraph, Graham Bell's telephone and public switch telephone network, and then packet switching in 1969 by Dr. Len Kleinrock, Windsurf, and Bob Kahn. We are now into next generation internet 2020, and we're talking about 5G and 6G research has already started. So why do we need this? We need this because we need to be able to support different kinds of application, right? We need the network to be more flexible, feasible, scalable. We can support lots of bandwidth, low latency, etc. So if you look at the evolution, again, this is only on the cellular side. Every 10 years since 1980, when we had analog, then every 10 years we have a new generation of cellular networks. And there are two camps like 3GPP, 3GPP2. These are the standards organization. Around 2010, we had 4G network, which is long-term evolution. At the same time, IEEE was doing WiMAX, right? So people are trying to evolve the wireless network, at the same time, WAN network too. And now we are in the midst of getting the 5G deployed. And then 6G, people have already started working towards it, right? So this is happening on the cellular side. And similarly, We all are IEEE folks here, most of us, right? And we are all using 802 or Wi-Fi. So there has been a coexistence of Wi-Fi, and you can see there is an evolution of Wi-Fi at the same time, and the evolution of cellular networks, right? And they coexist. Right now, Wi-Fi 7 is being ratified. At the same time, we are release 18 on 3GPP. So they have to coexist. So any of you who like to do research or understand, this is an important area of research as well. We should not forget that. All right. So how it's going to help end of the day, as Dr. Mariko Bergen mentioned, right? We have to see how the end users are actually getting benefited. So this is just an example of a smart city. If you have to evolve your network, it should be able to support different end users, robotics at home, e-health, intelligent transportation system, smart grids, smart wearables, etc. And each of these applications, if you look at it, they have different KPIs, the key performance indicators. Some of them need high bandwidth, some need low latency. So how do we design a network that can support all these? So that's where it is an end-to-end system. So we need help from every society in IEEE to come up with this ecosystem, right? What we call it 5G in advance or next generation network, right? So that means we need a bunch of emerging technologies. And I wanted to give an idea how these future networks all started. So within Future Direction Committee, which is an incubation kind of platform, many of the emerging technology, we start there, and then many of them graduate, and they continue as a technical community. So Future Networks, it used to be Future Networks Initiative. Actually, we started with 5G Network Initiative, and then we call it Future Networks because we'll be doing more and more. And so to 2020, end of 2022, we graduated, and now it is a pure technical community, for example. And I'll tell you some of the ways you can get involved. What are the interesting things we have been doing with the help of everybody around the world. But just wanted, because you're talking about future technology, there are other interesting initiatives that have graduated or still under the incubation of Future Direction. You might be interested to participate as well. So what is Future Networks Technical Community? So when we started 6 years back, there were like 22 societies were like technical sponsors. Right now, we are a full-fledged technical community. That means there are 9 societies who are the financial co-sponsors. ICOMSOC being the primary co-sponsor. And then we have several things. It's like almost like a mini society. We have publication working group, standardization, conference, education, industry engagement, so on and so forth. And there are lots of things we do. I'll show you the snapshot of our website. But among the events, we have been doing this, we used to call it 5G World Forum. And now the next one is going to be in Baltimore, 6th Future Networks World Forum. Last year it was in Montreal. Sampath talked about IEEE connecting the unconnected. This is the 3rd year we'll be doing it. I'll say a little bit more about it. The whole idea is to really reduce the digital divide, because there are more than 50% of people either unconnected or underconnected. So whole idea was to really create some kind of initiative from IEEE, and we have also collaborated with humanitarian activity and other societies as well. And just to give you a snapshot, first year in 2021, we had a challenge followed by a summit. We got about like 270 applications from 69 countries around the world. And last year we had about like 250 submission from about 45 or so countries. And we give them awards. We go through a screening process, and then we have a summit. The next one is taking place in 2020 through December, along with GlobeCom. So last 2 years were virtual. So this is happening in Kuala Lumpur. And the challenge will be open first week of May. So please keep an eye on that. On top of that, we also have different technology workshops, mini workshop, webinars. I'll focus a little bit on the international generation roadmap. I'll quickly go over that just to see how you can get involved. Because if you have to develop a new network or architecture, you have to develop new technologies, and what we are doing there. And there are e-learning modules, tutorials, etc. if you want to participate. So this is our website, futurenetworks.ieee.org. If you go there, I also like to thank our IEEE staff, Brad Loja, Matt Post, Craig Paul, and other previous staff who have helped us continued for the last 6 years, Bill Tonti and Kathy Grease, etc. So this is just to give you an idea. If you go there, you can get lots of ways how to get involved. There are different working groups, all of those. I'll focus on the international network generation roadmap, because this is something where there are about 14 different working groups. We developed the roadmap looking into 3-year and 5-year, 10-year from now, how things are going to look like. So we have about like 200 volunteers around the world from different industry academics. And we publish this roadmap edition every year. The 2022 edition was published in April. Now it is archived in IEEE Explore. And we are now working on 2023. So this is open to all, just like in the IEEE's DNA, open, neutral, and anybody can join, students, faculty, researchers. We have weekly meetings, and I'll briefly go over that. So this is right now already available, this roadmap in IEEE Explore. You can take a look at that. And so the way we have done it is, if you look at a network, is like an end-to-end system. There is an access part, there is a radio access network in case of cellular. Then they have a core network, edge cloud, and there are security, etc. So we wanted to address all of those. So in terms of user access, we have satellites, deployment, and connecting the unconnected. These are 3 different working groups. In terms of network components and performance, we have edge automation, massive MIMO, systems optimization, optics, and millimeter wave. Systems and standards, we have testbed working group. We actually have built a testbed. I'll give a little example of that. We have a way to standardize. If you come up with a new idea for technology, you can actually take it to IEEE SA and standardize that. Energy efficiency, green technology. How do you make everything energy efficient? And services enabler side, security, application services, and AI/ML. So right now there are 14 of those. Now that we became a technical community, we are going to be doing more working groups. So if you have new idea, you let us know. You join the technical community. If you're a society member, it's free. Just everything you can join. So I just wanted to open it up, because when you develop a new network, now we are calling it 5G, 6-7 years from now, it'll be 6G, or 10 years, 15 years from 7G. Those are just marketing terms, but eventually we have to come up with new ways to support different kinds of application. So the scope of this INGR is, as I was describing, what are the highlights of the common needs, the challenges to achieving those needs, what are the potential solutions, right? And we have to work with industry to take it to the next stage. So we have a objective there, and these are different working groups, and you can go to the Future Networks IEEE.org/roadmap, and average each of them has maybe 100 to 150 pages. Some of them are maybe 200 pages, for example, application working group. And here, this should give you also a lot of ideas about doing research, or how you want to contribute. So this is a good example of that. If you really want to get involved, these are the co-chairs. So I'm the overall chair for the technical community, and team leads or vice chair from MTT. But you can send mail to this email address, and this slides will be available, and there are co-chairs. They will get back to you, will get added to that, and you become an author basically of this whole roadmap, right? Okay, let me quickly go over some of these. So for example, because we have less time, we want to get into the panel in the next 5 minutes. Application services working group, right? So this is a working group that looks into different types of application that can be supported using future networks as an enabler, right? So it is not a telecom only anymore, right? So it's an ecosystem of ecosystems. You have agriculture, you have entertainment, you have first responder. There are different verticals, how they can take advantage of future networks. That means every application has its own underlying key performance indicators, and Narendra Mangra is one of the co-chair. And yeah, so I will move on quickly. So this is application working group, then connecting the unconnected. This is the The CTU part, which I briefly talked about, and we can have more discussion on that. Security working group, we look into all the security aspects from all layers and what are the new security challenges, opportunities, etc. There is satellite working group. It's becoming very, very important with hybrid. And Giovanni and Sastikota, they are leading this. You can take a look at that. Masi MIMO, this is an important area of research. Big component of 5G and 6G. Millimeter wave signal processing. Team Lee is one of the co-chairs for that. A lot of hardware, if you're looking into terahertz type communication there. Energy efficiency, as I said, is important to make how the ICT green and how to make it sustainable network. So you can look into that. Optics, we are not only focusing on wireless. There are many ways you can integrate the optics with wireless. So this working group has an opportunity for you to contribute there. Edge automation provides the low latency type application. How can we make sure you can support low latency type application, ultra reliable low latency? Systems optimization, it is very important as things get deployed. What are the different bottlenecks? How do you make the whole deployment optimal? This is a lot of research out here if you want to contribute. Test bed, this is important. We have been also looking at different test bed. End of the day, you have to deploy, make sure it works. So there are many test beds around the world. We have a survey of all the test bed and how you can make use of it. In fact, building a IEEE test bed now, there's a deployment working group, David Witkowski. There are many deployment issues, including the environmental issues. Different countries have different issues, and we are looking into that. AI/ML is one of the most recent one. Looking to how to take advantage of AI/ML to optimize the overall network. There are a lot of other things going on. We have been doing this 5G summit along with Communication Society. I've done about 90 of those so far around the world. If you are interested to host one, please let me know. We started in 2015 at Princeton University. I'll finish up. There is a standardization building block. If you have an idea, we have a path to take it to the standard. Now, the test bed, I think the picture also didn't come here. So this is a IEEE test bed for the first time we are building to help the industry, operators, vendors, application service providers, academia, give them a platform so they can work together. Students in the academia, they can get in and use the test bed for their course assignment, etc. So this is now in the first phase. We are just creating the test bed. Tech Mahindra is helping us to help integrate this. We got some funding from New Initiative Committee. I think this is a very unique thing which I'm personally involved along with Anwar as a volunteer co-chair. There are many companies who are already part of this consortium. We are reaching out in Austin, big 5G event, to have a panel around this. So I'd like to just leave it there. This is a very interesting time and revolution. So you have a way to contribute, participate, and be a leader. Student, YPs, professors, researchers, anybody, right? It's a great time, folks. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ashutosh, for your impressive presentation. I think you covered a lot of great insight about the offerings from IEEE Future Networks. So we are really thrilled to have, to hear from you, the many great things, what has happened. And also, I love especially how you show the evolution of the communication from horses to pigeon all the way up to 5G. That's a very impressive one, for our audience. So now I think we will start, Dr. Mariko and with Ashutosh, Dr. Ashutosh, we'll have about 10 minutes we have. So we'll have a, Q&A. So I think first we'll start with an interesting topic here. I think this goes to both of you. So climate change right now is a very hot topic right now across the board, right? So what I would like to hear from you is, can you provide some examples how members of GRSS or, for example, the Future Network Technical Council, they can leverage the technical expertise, using, of course, the emerging technologies to address some of these challenges. So if you quote a few possible use case or avenue where people can contribute to climatic change, that will be great. So I'll start with Dr. Mariko first.
Thank you so much. Yeah, actually, IEEE has recently really focused on climate change, and I think even the IEEE president has made this really a focus point. So there's now a lot of interesting efforts going on within IEEE to kind of coordinate. Within GRSS, we just recently started a technical committee. So we kind of group interests and sort of thrusts around our technical committees, and we call this one is called React. It's really new, and it is really focused on different aspects around it. Right now, we're focusing on different areas around the world, and what it is gathering the minds together on certain topics. Like, and you mentioned specific topics, right? So I'm just going to mention one. There are many. For example, flooding. Flooding is one that we need to understand better. When we think climate change, we think temperature, we think melting, but flooding is actually also something that is very related to disasters, responses, and has a very strong impact on societies and countries, and people's lives, right? So what React is doing is really trying to gather the latest technologies, gather the latest science on this field, and industries involved in this too, to figure out how can we improve our flood predictions. How can we make sure that we're protecting real estate, people's lives, and help on those fronts? And so we have these kind of focus areas where we're trying to really, by giving the platform for people to come together from academia, government, and industry, to kind of have this exchange on specific topics so they can make progress. People make progress anyways, but bringing them together, I think this is where we as a society can be helpful as GRSS.
Yeah, absolutely. Great call out. And you're absolutely right. One of the, drastic impact of the climate change is basically the temperature change, which results in flooding, so that's a very good call out and a use case. Quite interesting. So Dr. Ashutosh, I'm going to come back to you and pose the same question. What are some of the areas you think, members who are involved in the Future Direction Network could contribute pertaining to the climatic change?
Right. No, absolutely. This is an important area. So when you're developing a new technology, right, you have to see, is it affecting the climate anyway, right? Well, automotive folks, they are thinking about the carbon emission, etc. If I'm building a 5G or 6G network and I'm going to have millimeter wave type communication, I'll have lots of these cell towers spread across, the city or villages. How much of energy I need, how much of heat they're generating. So those are important things sometimes we forget. Even in the machine room, how much energy we need to maintain these servers. So that's why the energy efficiency working group is looking into all those to provide this optimization. There is an interesting thing recently I was brought to attention, that how does climate change actually affect the actual communication? Because if you have climate change and you have all these vapors and dews and rains and all those, that will also affect your millimeter wave type communication. So in a way, there is a direct linkage of all these atmospheric changes that might affect the actual communication, right? So that is a new interesting area to see. If now we are going to terahertz, right? So how can we see the not the perils, the disadvantages of climate change, and how can we adjust our network accordingly, right? So what we're doing within IEEE Future Networks, obviously the millimeter wave, the energy efficiency, are looking into that. At the same time, we're also collaborating with other institutions like Next Day Alliance, for example. They have a sustainability power engineering society. So there are other potential organizational units inside IEEE and outside. We have started collaborating, but we haven't done much yet. Well, this is just your beginning.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for both of you. It's a very, very insightful examples what you gave, and quite fascinating to hear the possibilities, how you can leverage your skills to solve some of these critical global challenges, basically. So thank you. Now the second question is, as you know, predominantly majority of the audience who attend the offerings from IEEE are students and young professionals, right? So my question to you, we'll start with that, Ashita here, is that what is your advice to students and professionals early in their careers on professional development? Why they should involve in IEEE activities or professional activities like societies? What is your advice to them on that?
Yeah, it's a very important question. I have been a student myself, and as an IEEE member, and frankly speaking, I have benefited a lot, many ways. Not only learning the things, but meeting people like father of the internet, Green Sharp. I'm just giving an example: Bob Conrad and Kleinrock, right? I mean, there are many of those in our community. So you get a chance to network with them, and these people are so humble. They're you can just reach out. So come to conferences, any workshop. You don't have to fly to a big conference, even the local area, local leaders, right? So you get the knowledge, you spread the knowledge at the same time because you imbibe the knowledge, then you distribute it to others. That's the big part of it. The second thing, I always wanted to do something for the humanity, but I'm an engineer, right? I'm not a social service guy, I'm not a diplomat. So I found IEEE to be almost like a United Nations of technology. Think about that way. I always consider that. So using technology, how I can help the people around the world, right? So this provides me an avenue to do that. So I develop new technology at the same time. IEEE gives me a platform to go and help the community around the world, and that gives me the maximum satisfaction. So you gain something, you also give something away to others, and you help improve the overall community, getting internet to some parts of the world where they don't have anything through CTU. If you can achieve that and help implement some of these interesting projects, that's really grateful thing, right? And somebody doesn't have any access to read something, I guess this access, I just wanted to sum it up overall. That is the advancing the technology for humanity. This is a great way to get that done, in addition to your personal achievement, whatever, right? I have learned a lot of like soft skills, talking to people, managing things, that also helped me in my job at the same time, right? I get a lot of confidence by working with volunteers like you and staff like folks who are here.
Yeah.
I'll leave it there. Sampath, I know we
Thank
don't have
you.
enough time. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to now go on to Dr. Mariko, and we'll take the last question there. Then we'll kind of wrap it up. So I think the question here is, you gave a lot of great examples of programs offered by GRSS, right? So to you, for the benefit of our HKN audience, especially the students and young professionals, what are some of the resources or programs that they could participate so that they can upskill their talent on emerging technologies pertaining to GRSS?
I think the starting point, if you don't really know much about IEEE GRSS, apart from what I presented, is our website. I also put my email address in the chat in case someone wants to follow up. I would say start with the e-newsletter. It's a monthly e-newsletter. It gives you kind of a broad view of what's happening, and kind of like starts you to give information on what's available there. Look through the website. As said, student grant challenges. We have webinars. We have a lot of we have a resource center. We have a learning network, a link. So there are many different things. And it really depends on what you're interested in. Are you more a hands-on person? Are you interested in tutorials, webinars? Are you doing research that you want to present? So it really depends on where you're coming from. And I think that's maybe a good starting point. I think I just wanted to just add on a little bit to what Dr. Dutta said there as well. I think getting involved as a student in an IEEE society for me was very beneficial. And I think it's part of it is getting connected with the research, getting connected with the publications, getting connected with things that you can contribute, present, and then it turns into a network. And then at some point, like in my case, I consider it as like giving it forward, passing it on, and trying to improve the society and the community. But yeah, these are maybe my pointers.
Thank you so much, Dr. Meko. That was fantastic. Again, quite fascinating to know the offerings, from GRSS, but also I love the fact that you again now connected it back, to see some of, the benefits why we all are engaged right from our student days, basically. So I would like to wrap up here by, again, on behalf of HKN, to thank these wonderful global leaders, Dr. Mariko and Dr. Ashutosh, for joining us today, and for giving us such a wonderful presentation about GRSS and the future networks. I'm sure this is just the beginning. It's still the day one for our members to learn and participate and contribute. So with that, thank you again for joining and sharing your insights and wonderful experience for us. So with that, we'll close this panel, and there are many more exciting panels we are starting shortly, so the audience could benefit by joining those. And thank you once again to GRSS and Fusion Network for sponsoring, and also for joining us on this wonderful panel. Thank you, and all.
Thank you. Bye.